At the Bartels' quiet home, a hooded man knocks on the door. Claire, the pregnant wife, doesn't hear him because her husband, Michael, and daughter Emma are singing. The man walks around the house and scares Claire when she sees him through the window. Michael quickly runs to her side and chases after the stranger. The man later introduces himself as Solomon from the Better Day Society, a group that helps mentally challenged people find work. The family welcomes him, thinking he's there to fix the fence. Solomon and Emma get along well, as they have similar mental abilities. The couple helps him with the fence, though they feel unsure when he starts measuring with his feet. He laughs, saying it was a joke, and uses a tape measure instead. The next day, Claire goes to a maternity hospital for a checkup, and the nurse reassures her about Dr. Mott, who will see her for the first time. Claire changes into a gown, and Dr. Mott asks her to lie down for a pelvic exam, which surprises Claire since she's early in her pregnancy. Just before the exam starts, the nurse leaves to get some records. When Dr. Mott begins the procedure, Claire feels uncomfortable with the unusual way he's touching her, especially when he removes his gloves during the exam. Claire rushes out of the clinic feeling stressed and has an asthma attack. On her way home, she hits the fence as she hurries to take a shower. Michael checks on her and she breaks down, telling him what happened. She starts to wonder if she's overreacting, but Michael reassures her and encourages her to report it to the police. He promises his full support and convinces Claire to take action. A few days later, Dr. Mott stands in his office as the news of his wrongdoings spreads. Claire's case is covered by the media, especially after 4 more women come forward with their stories. Shortly after, a gunshot is heard. The next day, his death is reported in the obituary, and Michael brings the newspaper to Claire, who is coping by spending time with her plants. Meanwhile, Mrs. Mott learns that their assets are frozen, and her husband's death won't be covered by insurance. She can stay in their house until she gives birth, but is advised to make plans quickly. She struggles to stand and collapses after a few steps. She's rushed to the hospital, pleading to save her baby. Sadly, the baby dies, and her uterus is removed. While Mrs. Mott suffers, the Bartels are happy together. To make things worse, Mrs. Mott sees the news about her husband and learns that Claire was the first woman to speak out against him. 6 months later, the Bartels have a new baby, and Solomon has grown close to them, especially to Emma. Michael reminds Claire not to handle everything alone, like she did with Emma. He suggests they hire a nanny since she's also building a greenhouse. Afterward, Claire sends Emma off to school but forgets to give her a jacket. She tries to stop the bus but can't. Just as the bus is about to leave, a woman steps forward and helps her, so Claire is able to give Emma her jacket. Claire thanks the woman for stopping the bus, and the woman introduces herself as Peyton Flanders. She explains she's looking for a nanny job at the Bartel residence. Claire apologizes for forgetting the appointment, but Peyton assures her there's no issue. Peyton shares that she doesn't have an appointment or an agency. She tells Claire that the family she worked for left, and while talking with other nannies in the park, she learned that the Bartels are looking for someone. They sit down for tea, and Peyton opens up about her past. She tells Claire how she lost both her baby and husband at the same time, and had to have her uterus removed. She leaves out the fact that Dr. Mott was her husband. Peyton explains that after such a loss, she chose to be a nanny, believing that being a mother is the greatest thing. As Claire's baby cries, Peyton offers to go meet him. Just then, Solomon calls, and Claire steps away. Peyton approaches the baby, Joe, but Claire and Solomon return home. Claire introduces Peyton to Solomon before feeding Joe. Peyton's white sleeve gets stained by Solomon's painted hand, and she seems upset. Solomon apologizes, but Peyton hides her feelings, though he can tell something is wrong. She looks at Claire and the baby with envy, but quickly changes her expression, complimenting how beautiful Joe is. She then says goodbye, but Claire invites her to dinner to meet the rest of the family. That evening, Peyton watches how close and loving the Bartel family is. She feels bitter, especially when she sees the couple kiss. After dinner, Claire places Joe in his bassinet, and Peyton notices Claire's earring fall to the floor. As the couple talks about whether they'll hire her, Peyton pretends the earring is dangerously close to Joe's mouth, making them even more grateful for her help. The next day, Peyton starts working as the Bartels' nanny. Solomon keeps an eye on her from a distance. Early the next morning, Peyton's alarm goes off. She quietly sneaks into Joe's room, covers the baby monitor, and breastfeeds him. One evening, Claire talks to Peyton while preparing for a double date. She explains that the dress she's wearing is a gift from her husband, so it's very special to her. When Claire turns around, Peyton notices the perfume oil on the counter. Later, as Claire puts on the dress, she sees a stain, and Peyton offers to help clean it. When Michael and his friend Marty arrive, Marty is immediately attracted to Peyton. However, his wife, Marlene, arrives soon after, notices Marty's interest, and quickly makes a comment about the perfume Claire is wearing, calling it poison. Peyton asks her to repeat herself, and Marlene says it's the name of the perfume before leaving to help Claire. Because of the dress stain, Claire ends up wearing an old-fashioned floral dress, which disappoints Michael. That evening, Peyton takes advantage of the time alone with Emma to learn more about the family. Emma tells her that Michael and Marlene used to be childhood sweethearts, but what really catches Peyton's attention is when Emma mentions a bully named Roth at school and how Claire has tried but failed to handle the situation. At dinner, Marlene warns Claire about letting a beautiful woman into her house. She quotes, "The hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world." From that point on, Peyton secretly goes into Joe's room to breastfeed him. One day, while walking in the park with Joe, a woman mistakes Peyton for Joe's mother, but Peyton decides to play along. At the playground, Emma tells Peyton where her bully, Roth, is. Peyton goes straight to Roth, threatens him, and earns Emma's respect. The next day, Claire tries to feed Joe, but he refuses. She asks Peyton if she noticed anything wrong with the baby, but the nanny denies it. Michael says goodbye and mentions a letter he needs to send, so Claire offers to send it for him. While working in the greenhouse, Claire asks Peyton more questions to get to know her better. Peyton says that her only family was her husband, but he was taken by someone else. She adds that she believes in karma. Peyton then excuses herself to use the bathroom. What Claire doesn't know is that Peyton took Michael's letter, tore it up, and caused a mess in the bathroom. When they go to the post office, Claire finds out the letter is missing, and her asthma flares up as Peyton watches, feeling satisfied. That evening, Claire apologizes to Michael again for losing the letter. Michael is upset, feeling he may never have another chance to send it, but he tells Claire it's okay, even though he clearly feels the opposite. He tries to stay calm, but the tension lingers. The next day, Claire mentions her worry that Joe isn't eating, but when she checks with the doctor, she learns he is gaining weight, so both Claire and Peyton decide not to worry. Later, Peyton visits Michael at work to tell him about a surprise birthday party for Claire. She asks if Marlene can take charge of it and requests that Michael doesn't mention it's her idea. One afternoon, Solomon sees Peyton breastfeeding Joe, and the nanny warns him that no one would believe him because of his disability. She then slaps him. Although scared, Solomon tells himself he will protect his friends. Afterward, he feels nervous, but Emma gives him a bike, which helps calm his worries. While watching the two of them play, Claire comments on how nice their friendship is. The next day, the nanny asks about batteries for the intercom in Solomon's cart. Claire offers to find some but finds Emma's undergarment hidden inside. When Solomon appears, Claire gets angry, attacks him, and leaves with Emma. Peyton gives Solomon a glare, and he realizes it was a setup. He is dismissed and taken by the doctor. Emma, upset, avoids her mom and seeks comfort from Peyton. That night, Peyton talks to Emma, encouraging her anger toward Claire. She reassures Emma, promising to take care of everyone. When alone with Claire, Peyton gives half-hearted comfort over Emma's anger. To prepare for the surprise party, Marlene asks Michael to dinner. He tells Peyton it might not go as planned, but she reassures him. Later, Marlene visits and holds Joe. When he cries, Peyton quickly calms him, making Marlene uneasy. She then notices a wind chime Peyton gave the family. Claire invites Marlene to dinner, but she declines, saying she has a secret meeting with Michael. While alone, Peyton comments on Claire's looks and Marlene being Michael's first love. Peyton asks about Michael's absence, and Claire calls him. Meanwhile, Marlene and Michael finalize the guest list and share a cigarette. Marlene takes Marty's lighter after hers goes missing and learns Claire has been distant. When Michael arrives, Claire confronts him about smoking. That night, Peyton makes a noise in the kitchen, waking Michael. He grabs a bat, but finds her in a nightgown. She attempts to flirt with him, but he quickly leaves, holding Claire's hand tightly. The next day, Claire takes Michael's clothes to the dry cleaner, where the owner finds a lighter in his tuxedo pocket. Claire cries as her asthma flares up. Emma asks Claire to go into the living room, but Claire tells her to go upstairs as she cries. Michael checks on her, and Claire accuses him of cheating. He tries to explain, but she yells, ruining the mood of the surprise party, and Marlene leaves. Later, Michael and Claire talk, and he suggests a trip. Claire wants to leave Peyton behind, saying bad things happen when she's around. Michael disagrees, but they agree on a family vacation, unaware that Peyton is listening through the baby monitor. The next day, while everyone sleeps, Peyton messes with the greenhouse. Meanwhile, Marlene receives files including one for Dr. Mott's house. She notices a wind chime similar to one Peyton gave and decides to investigate. Marlene discovers Peyton's true identity and calls Claire, but Peyton answers. At the botanical garden, Claire's colleague gives her a note from Marlene, which she dismisses. Marlene rushes to the Bartels' house and confronts Peyton, revealing she knows her true identity. Peyton directs her to the greenhouse, where Marlene triggers a trap, causing the glass roof to shatter. Peyton locks the door, takes all of Claire's inhalers, and leaves with Joe. Claire finds Marlene's body, struggles with her asthma, and collapses. Peyton watches as the sirens approach, pretending to be shocked when paramedics revive Claire. In the hospital, Claire remains on a ventilator, and Michael reassures her before returning home. Meanwhile, Solomon waits outside in the rain. At home, Michael locks the greenhouse, but Peyton tries to seduce him. He rejects her, and she leaves. A few days later, Claire is discharged, and Emma notices Solomon following them home. When the family returns home, Peyton greets Claire like she owns the house and shows off managing Michael's schedule. Claire notices the nursery has been redecorated and feels left out. While sorting laundry, she finds a note about Marlene's call. The next day, Claire visits Marlene's office, notices odd behavior, and discovers a listing for Dr. Mott's house. She visits the mansion, finds a nursery like hers, and returns home furious. Claire confronts Peyton, revealing her true identity. Peyton tries to seek Michael's sympathy, but he dismisses her and they kick her out. Peyton threatens to take Joe, but they don't let her grab anything. Claire realizes the house is rigged and calls the police while packing to stay in a hotel. The police aren't in a hurry, so Michael investigates the music coming from the nanny's room. He finds a broken window, but as he climbs the stairs, Peyton strikes him with a shovel. Claire hears the noise and warns Emma to lock the door while she checks. Michael tells her Peyton is in the house. Claire calls 911, but Peyton attacks, hitting her on the head. Peyton then targets Emma, who locks her in a room after pointing her to the empty crib. Emma grabs Joe and hides, while Peyton breaks out. She hears Joe's cries from the baby monitor and follows them to the attic, where Solomon helps the kids. Claire arrives with a knife, and after a brief struggle, she overpowers Peyton. Claire pushes her out the window. Sirens approach as Claire entrusts Solomon with Joe, and they head to Michael.
Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and stay connected with us.